Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a second video in our series of the art in a bottle, focus on the bottle itself. So I actually did a video earlier in the year, about 4 or 5 months ago, on what I consider to be one of the most iconic bottle designers ever. His name was Pierre Dinand, and you can go check that video out. Many fragrances in my collection that he created, that his hand worked on and he drew and all that stuff. Monsieur Couturier, this Dunhill Blend 30 right here, which is absolutely stunning. Azzaro pour Homme, the list goes on. You can go check it out. Eben de Balmain, I mean, it goes on and on and on and on, the stuff that he made. Calvin Klein Obsession, and so many iconic bottles Pierre Dinand made. And I thought he was like the tip top, and then there was everyone else, right? And while making that video, somebody reached out to me and said, Ramsey, you're right about Pierre Dinand. He is amazing, but there's another designer that you really need to do a video on. His name is Serge Mansau. And I was not familiar with Serge. I mean, I saw his name occasionally. Parfumo lists the designer sometimes if it's a big name. But I didn't really realize how many bottles in my collection were from Serge Mansau and how many had this amazing off the beaten path artistry. Much of the bottles from Pierre Dinand fall into a category that I would say the masses can look at and see, and they have Art Deco lines, and they're sort of maybe easier to mass produce, that kind of thing. He's a fantastic designer, Pierre Dinand. But once I really started digging into some of the bottles in my collection that were Serge Mansau, I realized that as far as sculpting glass, and that's the way that he puts it, Serge Mansau calls himself a sculptor of glass. That when you look at the glass that he is able to shape and mold and change in some of the ways that, for example, one of the bottles I'm going to show you has what looks like fingerprints on the back and then ripples of water coming out of the fingerprints. Another one has, looks like rocks being sort of balanced on themselves, but indented into the bottle, stuff like that. And he did things like that blew me away the more that I got to know his work. He also did some mainstream stuff that we're going to discuss. This is not a ranked list. I'm not putting these in order. I'm just going alphabetically. And so this is a top 20, if you will, 20 fragrances in my collection from Serge Mansau. He actually has done more than 300 bottles, fragrance bottles, which is crazy. So again, he calls himself a sculptor, a creator. He passed away in February of 2019, unfortunately. He was born in June of 1930 in Paris, so he is a French sculptor. And he had sort of a difficult childhood, if you will. So his father worked as an aviation engineer. They traveled all over the world. He said that the whole time he felt like he was living out of a suitcase. He didn't have any toys, and that actually led later on to the creation of him working for, he worked with a creator, one of the oldest glass ateliers in France called Daum, D-A-U-M, and he actually created their glass bears. And if you look, they sell for thousands of dollars. It's crazy. But some of these glass bears, and one of the reasons is that he never had a bear, a teddy bear or a toy sort of growing up. Everything he had to create himself, he says. And so that's where really his artistic start, his artistry really started was when he was very young, because he lived this life on the road, if you will. And so he lived out of a suitcase. He sort of had to make his own things, and that was the beginning of his artist's life, if you will. And I want to read you a quote that he said that really sums up, I think, his whole aspect, his whole viewpoint on creating these beautiful works of art. And that's what they are. I mean, they are works of art to me. So he says, I often say that making a perfume is the same as putting on a play, with the fragrance itself in the role of the text, with the box in the role of decor, and the bottle performing as a star actor. The bottle is an interpreter. It carries the play of the text, makes one feel the juice, which is not really photogenic. The sense of smell highly depends on the inspiration of the sight. So he's basically saying that you could have the same fragrance in two different bottles, but the one in a particular type of bottle that you're looking at is going to change the way that you smell and interpret the fragrance. It's a very interesting viewpoint. So again, 20 fragrances from him. Actually, before we get started, I just want to go over my scent of the day because there's actually snow on the ground in Texas today. It's January 10th, 2025. And we very rarely get these snow type days, okay? And so I figured what better fragrance to wear than a fragrance that was created by my brother Russian Adam to symbolize the Moscow winter. And this is called Inverno Russo. This is back when he actually individually numbered his bottles. This is number 58. And you can see, so Russian Adam has always been big on bottles, but very early on, he didn't have the money to create the type of artistic bottles that came later on that I've talked about on my channel. There's an entire Areej Dore playlist. You can check it out. But this is when he just had a plain square stock bottle. But look what he did to it. You know, look at the sort of style here on the front. And most importantly, look at the rare gemstone on the top, the rare stone. That milky color, that milky white color is a perfect indication of the fragrance. My God, man, this is one of my favorite real musk fragrances of all time. Okay, all time. I did a real musk. This is not a top 10 video, and you can see how much I love this by how high I ranked it. But I'm gonna read you really quick a poem that he wrote about this, and it fits perfectly for today with snow on the ground. I can see the kids making snowmen and, you know, having snowball fights out there. We usually don't get that in Texas. So, and it will be melting today, I believe. So, shock, coziness, love, passion, nostalgia, sadness, joy, peace, silence, white and heavy, sweet and hot, fluffy and animalic, challenging and inviting, gracious and calm, dreamy and awakening. Inverno Russo is my personal poetic dream, my imagination's scent of the Russian winter. That's from Russian Adam, okay? And he says it's a perfectly balance of love and hate. You love it because you're inside your house. It's warm. You have the heat on. You know, you have the fireplace going. But you look out the window and you hate the cold. You can't go out. You know, maybe the ice is blocking you in. It's freezing outside. Everything seems dead. You don't get the beautiful flowers in the garden. All that stuff, right? So there's this love-hate combination. But there's this fluffy snow quality to the musk that is just to die for. I absolutely love this. And there's this white rose alba note, and I found I love that white rose alba. Sultan Pasha used it in a couple of his creations. I love that white rose, and it fits perfectly with the snow. And there's a lot of co-distillations in here, which he just cannot recreate. Peach blossoms and all of these other tinctures, which just are impossible to recreate. White gardenia, white champaca, white frankincense, you know, lots of white notes in here. And then that real Siberian musk. It's to die for. So anyways, I have a review on it. Very few people watched it, as I understand. I mean, there's 200 bottles for the world or whatever there is, 200-300 bottles. You know, it's not an easy one to hunt down. But if you're into hunting down these rare, hard to find Areej Dores, this is one to definitely put on your list. Okay, so let's get started. Top 20 Serge Mansau creations. So the first one, going in alphabetical order, just so happens this is the first one, but this is probably maybe one of his most iconic and easily recognized by the masses bottles. And so this is from 1998, and it is Cartier's Declaration. So, and just so you guys know, I gathered this information from a lot of different sources, okay? Some of it was Fragrantica, some of it was Parfumo, some of it was just Serge Mansau websites. When he passed away, people put pictures of his bottles that he created up. If anyone knows of others that are not on this list, or if I'm wrong on some of these and it's not him, let me know. I'm doing my best to kind of put all this together for you guys in one coherent place. But so this came out in 1998, and you can see the lines instantly, easily recognizable bottle. And you're going to notice with many of his creations, actually a couple of them come to mind, they have this little piece right here that maybe some of them create a circle over the top. This one, what he did is he decided to make it to where this stops the atomizer from spraying when it's not supposed to be sprayed. And what you have to do is pull it down, and then you can spray, and then you can put it back, and it clicks into place. So he loved creating these little bits and pieces on his bottles. And so a very simple design, but very recognizable. And in fact, with that Y shape right here, it almost has maybe a little bit of like a man's chest about it to me. I don't know how you guys view it, but I could almost see maybe like a sculpted man's chest right here. And obviously Cartier liked the bottle because they stuck with it over and over and over. They continued to use it when they did their Pure Parfum version, which is called Declaration Parfum, go figure. But you can see they added the coloring of the juice to make it seem darker, and that's what Mathilde Laurent did. This original one was a Jean-Claude Ellena, and Jean-Claude Ellena loves his fragrances to have this ethereal, watercolory type freshness to them. You know, there are heavy notes in here. There's the cumin and birch and stuff like that, and woodiness, the cedar, but it has that Jean-Claude Ellena airiness, the lightness, you know, the watercolor aspect. Everything just kind of blends together, and it wears light even though it's heavy. This one really sort of enhances that heavier side, the oriental side, the leathery side, you know, the spicy side. The cardamom is amped up here as well. The oriental notes are amped up. And so the leather is definitely amped up. So if you like Declaration, but you wish it was heavier, you can go for the Parfum. I love them both. I'll review them one of these days. I mean, there's only one me and so many fragrances to discuss, but eventually I plan on reviewing all of these, God willing. But the fact that Cartier kept the bottle shows what an iconic bottle Declaration ended up being, and an iconic fragrance. This is kind of a homage to Eau de Hermes by Edmond Rudnitska, who was Jean-Claude Ellena's teacher. They also kept it with the Dune Soir version. This is a mini. Look how cute that is, like a 12.5 mil mini. It doesn't have the little mechanism here. The whole cap comes off like this, but it comes in this little pouch. How perfect for someone with a big collection, a 12.5 mil mini. And this is like a rose heavy version of Cartier. So anyways, but you can see the bottle design, that iconic Y shape. They kept the bottle design. Love it. Probably one of the most mass appealing, or most, the majority may be able to easily recognize Cartier's Declaration. Okay, next on the list, we go to one that most folks do not know. In fact, I don't even know it that well. I've only put it on my skin one time before bed, but I was blown away by the complexity and the depth. You have to love florals to like this, though. It's from the house of Caron, and it's from 1970. It's called Caron Infini, and this is a mini that was very kindly sent to me by Angie. So thank you, Angie, one of my beautiful perfume god people. This is discontinued, unfortunately. Michel Morsetti is the perfumer. And you can see this little diamond right here in the middle, okay? And you can see it almost has, to me, there's this smooth, like pebble-like look to the bottle. Almost like it's an artifact or something you would find on an alien beach or something, you know, where the water smoothed out the side. Maybe it was sharp, but now it's like nice and smooth. And the advertising said, let's see if I can find it real quick. Infini, a beginning without end. A beginning without end. So it shows the bottle kind of in a lot of these landscapes where it just goes and goes and goes and goes until the sunrise. And in the background is maybe like a woman's face, or, you know, something along those lines. There's a couple images of different landscapes where this is, you know, placed in, like one on a desert soil, one looking like it's on a farmland or something like that. But the idea of the view from where you're looking at, just going on and on and on, holds true. And the actual bottles, this is a mini, okay? So this is a what is this? A 1/4 of an ounce, okay? So it's a mini, but you can see Parfums Caron down at the bottom. The actual fuller, bigger bottles of the Parfum, this right here, this little place in the middle where Infini is written, is actually a hole through the bottle. So there's a string that connects. There's a opening here on the full bottle, and you can look these up on Parfumo. Beautiful bottles, by the way. Again, that's what I'm saying, celebrating the bottles, where the string can actually connect through the hole and hold it together. Serge Mansau loved using strings, and I'm going to show you in a couple as we get to them. But this is a beautiful floral chypre with musk rose, tuberose, jasmine, lily of the valley, narcissus, vetiver, sandalwood, and tonka bean. Very deep, you know, florals. The florals feel so full and thick. And I'll definitely be talking about, I should probably spend more time on these vintages than I've been spending on the newer stuff lately, because this is really where my heart and passion is with these vintage fragrances. So that's Caron Infini. Speaking of Caron, before we go to the next Caron, there's a beautiful video by Veneris Radari, the Scented Devil, on his channel. If you're not subscribed to him, I would highly urge you to go subscribe to his channel. He is a wealth of knowledge. But he was talking about Ernest Daltroff, the founder and original perfumer of Caron. And he was talking about sort of his history and backstory and how he was self-taught and all this stuff. And he says that the old saying was that back in the day, Caron was actually seen as a higher class brand. It was seen as we may see a Roja Dove or a Clive Christian or something like that. It was kind of one of the higher end brands. So the saying back in the day was you bought Caron for your wife and you bought Guerlain for your mistress, because Guerlain was kind of like the more fun, playful kind of type fragrances, right? And so interestingly enough, this next fragrance is named after that sort of free spirit that Daltroff brought to the market, because he was self-taught. He didn't go to the same school, so he thought about things differently than maybe a Guerlain or something like that would. And so this one's called Le Anarchiste. And Le Anarchiste is an actual definition discussing Daltroff sort of coming into the fragrance world in the early 1900s and causing like an anarchy, because he broke all the rules because he didn't know what they were, kind of thing. That was Ernest Daltroff in the beginning. So this one came out in the year 2000. It is unfortunately discontinued. We're going to go through some discontinued. A bunch of these are going to be discontinued, unfortunately. It's just the reality of the fragrance world nowadays. But this came out in 2000. It was created by Richard Fraisse, who's a hell of a perfumer. This may be one of my favorite Richard Fraisse creations, to be honest with you. Although he's done a lot of stuff that I would like to smell that I just have not smelled yet. He did a lot for Caron. And so this is mint, orange blossom, Bourbon vetiver, Indian sandalwood, Gaiac wood, and musk. Actually, let me get a blotter real quick so I can spray this. Hang on, 1 second. Uno momento. I'm not going to spray them all, but I may spray a couple here. So let's do La Anarchiste. So this is a beautiful blend of sort of freshness and spicy, woody fragrances, which can sometimes go boring to some people. This is not boring at all to me. And there's this amazing balancing act between sort of the freshness and that sort of woodiness as it continues to dry down. Yeah, so instantly you're going to get the vetiver, you'll get the woods, but it's sort of freshened by this mint and orange blossom combination. And the orange blossom adds a little bit of soapiness, but what's so fascinating about it is if you look at the bottle, and this goes back to the brilliance of Serge Mansau. Unfortunately, I don't have the cap. It was also this copper-looking cap with what almost looked like grooves around it, okay? But the marketing kind of showed... let me see if I can find it real quick. But the marketing that I recall, it's not on here now, but it sort of showed like maybe like a lighter, like a flame underneath it, you know? And when you smell the fragrance, there is something maybe slightly metallic underneath, and it has this warming aspect to it. I think the combination of sandalwood and Gaiac wood, which can sometimes have this sort of burnt type feeling, have this warming aspect to it. And for a simple designer, this is pretty interesting stuff. It may not blow you away at first on first sniff, but get to know it. Give it some time. There's actually some info right there on the back since this is a tester bottle. But yeah, it's natural sandalwood, Bourbon vetiver. Really beautiful stuff. I need to spend more time with this and discuss it on the channel because it deserves some limelight. Very interesting, Caron. I need to spend more time with the house in general. So next on the list is actually another of his very iconic designs that one of the brands he made it for stuck with it again and again and again, over and over. They probably have 100 flankers of this, it feels like, and they stuck with a very similar design. So this is from 1990 was the original release. My bottle is the 2005 re-release. Both are discontinued according to Parfumo now, but this is Cerruti's 1881 Pour Homme, one of the ultimate summer fragrances in my collection. This is basil, blackcurrant, cypress, patchouli, ylang ylang, oak moss, pine, and sandalwood. The original from 1990 had much more cumin, so it had more of that spicy sort of hint twist to it, sort of slightly animalic, sweaty vibe cumin can give. And it lasted a lot longer, but this re-release by Coty, it was originally marketed by Unilever. This re-release by Coty is still a very good representation of what the fragrance was. Okay, it's great for the heat, you know, great to be able to just spray on. And, you know, remember, this is the 90s, so already the aquatic or edge was going. But for someone who wanted to wear a fresher fragrance, but they didn't want to wear an aquatic, this was the fragrance for them. I could see older gentlemen, when they were older in the 1990s, easily going for something like this because it had some of that 80s, you know, herbal sort of complexity to it with the basil, the patchouli, the balsam fir, or depending on which version you had, the pine and oak moss in the base, that kind of thing. And so you can see the texture that he loves to put on his bottles. So look at the texture of this bottle. Now remember, this is a $30 fragrance at discounters, or it was. I don't know what it goes for now, but just look at the detail. The 1881, the frosted glass, and the cap here, which I'm trying to think of maybe what this could suppose, what Serge Mansau's idea was when he added the cap here. But either way, you get the idea of sort of the complexity of his creations here. Just absolutely stunning. And they stuck with it. This is a flanker from about 11 years ago. Crazy, this is 11 years old already. And you can see they stuck with the 1881. Now it's actually indented instead of sticking out here. This is pushed out. This one's indented. But you see the idea is kind of the same, except for now when you flip it over, because it's clear here, you can see the 1881 through the glass. So I don't know if he also designed this or if the brand just decided to kind of go with it and create something very similar. But this is a discontinued fragrance as well by Olivier Cresp, another beautiful, spicy, woody. Olivier Cresp made some great stuff for the designer realm. Sichuan pepper, juniper, key lime, coriander, black cardamom. The cardamom note in here is very nice. Nutmeg, Ceylonese cinnamon, night blooming jasmine, vanilla, cedar, musk, and patchouli. So you can get the idea. I'll review these one of these days if I get around to it. But two beautiful bottles by Serge Mansau. Okay, next on the list we have a fragrance from the house of Charles Jourdan, and this is from 1981. This is definitely going to get a, you know, discontinued or vintage Hall of Fame review. And this is called Charles Jourdan Un Homme. I love this stuff. It shares some similarities with Patou Pour Homme, which is actually coming up here later on in the list. And again, speaking of like the way that he created fragrances that had this sort of the cap sort of differentiates the fragrance, right? So most snap-on caps, you just pull it up, right? Or you could maybe spin it off, but you can't just spin this off starting from here, and you can't just pull it up starting from here. So what he created was he created a bottle where you have to pull the cap up, then you can twist it up. Then you can twist it off, you know? And he was always innovating with these small little details that made all the difference, you know? So here, even though it seems like you can't turn it anymore, in order to close it, you have to push it down. And the bottle is just brilliant for me. I love this bottle. Love everything about it. Love the fragrance. It's a leathery fougere from 1981 with anise. It had that anise structure from Azzaro Pour Homme with marjoram and tarragon. I love tarragon. Bergamot, lavender, lemon, cedar, carnation, cyclamen, geranium, jasmine, patchouli, leather, oak moss, sandalwood, amber, musk, and tonka bean. So if you know Patou Pour Homme and you've never smelled this, imagine like a earthier, slightly more leathery version of Patou Pour Homme, okay? Beautiful, spicy, woody creation by Francois Caron. Speaking of Caron, we go from Caron the brand to Francois Caron, the perfumer. So that is Charles Jourdan un Homme. Okay, next on the list, we're going to do some minis, but I bet you these are some of his most beautiful bottles in full bottle form. So the first one is from 1996, and it's from the house of Givenchy, and it's called Organza. So first of all, this is the front, okay? Now look, you can almost see the design. What does that remind you of? In the marketing, they show it in a woman's dress. Like, they show the bottle, and then they show a woman standing next to the bottle wearing a dress that makes her figure look very, very similar to this, right? So it's almost like the dress, you can see the woman's figure here. And so like, here's her hair up in a bun or something like that. And it's just a beautiful. Now this is, pretty sure this is just plastic because it's a mini, but if you could just imagine this in full glass, it is just beautiful. Just absolutely stunning bottle in my opinion. And you can see how out there, when I said some of his work was really off the beaten path and goes against the grain, you know, as great as Pierre Dinand is, and you can see many of his bottles had this very classical style to them, but very few, you know, he would add a little turn here or there, an extra little layer here or something like that, but very few went into the complexity of something like this. Serge Mansau's work really borders on art, you know? I think even something like this is considered art, but this is much more traditional fragrance bottle, whereas Serge's work really borders on like you're holding a piece of art. So then they did a flanker of Organza, and they called it Indecence. And I actually have two, and look at the difference in the color here. So this is the same eau de parfum. Look at the difference. I think this one, probably because the air got in, maybe the vanilla in here turned it darker or something like that. But now look at the bottle. So it still has that sort of woman's dress version here in the back, right? But now it almost looks like the dress is flayed out, like she's done a twirl or something and the dress has come out a little bit. And I mean, when they say the mold is maybe the most expensive thing, the detail to get some of the mold and then to put it into a mini like this as well. I miss a good mini. I really feel like houses should get back to doing a proper mini. I know it costs them a little bit more, but I miss a good mini. So that's Givenchy's Organza Indecence, a flanker from 1999. It's supposed to be more of an oriental version of Organza, which was more of a sweet floral with some ambery undertones and a beautiful walnut note, by the way. So I'll talk about those one of these days on the channel. They were both marketed towards women, but I would have no problem wearing either. The depth of the fragrances from back then marketed towards women were just amazing. And then a masculine fragrance from Givenchy, and again, probably one of the more recognizable bottle designs by Serge Mansau for the masses, and this one's called Pi by Givenchy. So pi, obviously, is the Greek letter for the ratio of the circumference of any circle to the diameter of that circle. Remember your math from back in the day? I don't. Speaking of circles, so if you take a look again, remember he liked putting these little things on the side. Remember I showed you with Declaration, right? So this one, I mean, it does move. You can almost do it like a clasp or something. This doesn't come off. It's not supposed to come off. But if you're thinking about the circle, here's half the circle. So if you know pi, you should be able to recreate the rest of the circle, right? I'm guessing that's what he was thinking when he created this, but it's got the built-in atomizer. Now the back, I don't know. This is the part where I'm going to do an Ask the Audience and ask if anyone knows. Well, obviously, I mean, this is maybe the symbol for pi, so that's easy. That's the pi symbol right there. But what is this? I don't know what, I've been thinking a lot about what in the world is this supposed to be right here? Is it a person? Is it a sculpture of some sort? I don't know. If anyone knows, I mean, when you look through it this way, you can see the symbol for pi right here. That makes sense to me. Okay, I get it. I get the pi symbol. But what is this? Is this like, is this a man right here? Here's his hood. Here's his face looking at the symbol. with the stars in the background or something. Either way, whatever it is art. Literally art in a bottle. I think it's gorgeous. Gorgeous piece of work here. And this was a very mainstream bottle, you know? This particular one came from Japan, where there's a hell of a lot of good vintage perfumes. But very interesting stuff. And Pi is Alberto Mordia's creation. It sort of has this very benzoin-y oriental thing that was very popular in the late 90s. So you get some pine, mandarin orange, ironwood, which is supposed to be very strong, I hear, and benzoin. Lots of benzoin. Lots and lots of benzoin in Pi. Very sweet, oriental, and yet I really, really enjoy it for what it is. So, yes, if you have experience with Pi, do let me know. If you know what that symbol is supposed to be there, let me know as well. The marketing by Givenchy shows like a man in a spaceship looking, or a spacesuit looking up. I don't really understand the spacesuit. Maybe that's what that's supposed to be. That's supposed to be a spacesuit? I have no idea. Looks like the Assassin's Creed guy in the hood to me, but let me know what you guys think. Okay, next on the list we have probably, if I was ranking most beautiful bottles, this would be up there. I think this is just a gorgeous piece of work, and it's one of his early works from the 1960s, from 1966 actually, from Guy Laroche, and this is called Fidji. So this is the box, obviously, not the bottle. For those of you confused, let me show you the bottle. So that is just pure perfection to me. I mean, it is so gorgeous. And so again, I told you he likes doing these little strings and stuff like that that attach everything together. It was just kind of one of his things. Now, in the actual bottle, or maybe this one even had it and it fell off or something, but there's like a Guy Laroche little logo right here, like Guerlain has been putting on their bottles like this, right? They got the little Guerlain logo right here now. So Guy Laroche had their little logo right here back in the day holding the little string together. But if you are looking for a floral fragrance, okay, it's so, I mean, the depth, right? And it's easy for a man to say, I don't like florals. I don't like florals. But the depth of all, I mean, the way everything comes together in here is art. It's masterful. The hyacinth, the aldehydes, the Madagascan ylang ylang, the Egyptian tuberose, the English lilac, the Florentine iris, the French carnation, the Italian jasmine, the violet, the Bulgarian rose, and then the base of ambergris and myrrh and patchouli and galbanum and all of that stuff. And my little holder fell as I was talking good about it. Let me put it back on. But either way, I would urge you to sniff this. It is gorgeous. I'll do a video on it one of these days. Unfortunately, it is discontinued in the parfum form like this. I don't know if they still make the regular Fiji in EDT or something like that. But special fragrance and special bottle. So that's Fiji. Okay. Next on the list, we are going to a Hermes fragrance. And I don't know if I mentioned or if I forgot to, but he did a couple fragrances that I can't show you. Of course, he did a lot of stuff, obviously, that I can't show you because I don't have. But he did one for Hermes that I think is just masterful, and it's called 24 Faubourg. That's a Serge Mansau bottle. He also did this one for Hermes, but only the first version. If you have the second or the third iteration, that's just the standard, Hermes bottle. I've shown it previously with, the modern version of Equipage Geranium or something like that. That's just the modern. But the original first version of this fragrance was a Serge Mansau, and it is called Adokobar. Can't say Rokobar without saying Adokobar. So this fragrance is sort of, imagine that benzoin warmth that was so popular at the end of the 90s, but mix it with a, horse stable outdoor setting, and you have Rokobar. Juniper, coriander, lemon, bergamot, cedar, cypress, which adds that medicinal green feeling. Cardamom, carnation, which is one of the... This is about the end of the time they started doing carnation in masculine fragrances, which makes me very, very sad. Violet, fir, benzoin, patchouli, vanilla, and oak moss. And this is done by 3 perfumers, Bernard Bourgeois, Giles Ramy, and Jean-Claude Elena. This was before Jean-Claude Elena was in-house perfumer, but you can see the almost like barbed wire twist around the center, if you will. And it came with a blanket, like a horse blanket, like an Hermes horse blanket. Hermes made some of the most exquisite horse saddles and stuff like that, you know. And so this came with a Hermes blanket that came around the bottle. I don't have it anymore. I don't know where it is. But this is the first version, and this is the bottle that he made for it. And you can see kind of the detail on the side as well. And the wrapping of, I don't know what this is supposed to be, if it's a string or barbed wire for the fence or what, I don't know, but if anyone knows, let me know. But it's gorgeous. You can see I've dented it a couple times in all of the years of owning it, but beautiful fragrance. Still in production, but it won't be in this bottle, in the original Serge Mansau bottle any longer. And you can even see on the side how it's got that sort of the line. Again, remember, he considers himself a sculptor of glass, and you get that in his creations. Amazing stuff. Okay, next on the list, we have another discontinued fragrance from the house of Jean-Louis Scherrer. And this is basically an animalic floral chypre, spicy animalic floral chypre. You get a huge value for money here. I think I paid like 20 or 25 bucks for this. It's amazing. Marketed towards women from 1986. I can easily wear it. And it's called Scherrer 2. And again, look at, this is probably one of his most Art Deco style bottles, you know? And you can see, you know, it reminds me of like the Empire State Building or something, you know? But floral, spicy, tuberose, Portuguese mandarin, rose, jasmine, angelica, violet leaf in the top, myrrh, cinnamon, Mysore sandalwood. Like I said, huge value for money. Cedar and Bourbon vetiver in the heart, with a base of civet, musk, oak moss, apopanax, benzoin, patchouli, and castoreum. So you do have to like some animalic notes in here. I'm not sure who the perfumer is. I think it was Francois Caron. Again, she from Jourdan, Charles Jourdan Un Homme. I think it's, I'm pretty sure it's Francois Caron, even though it's not listed in Parfumo. But it was last marketed by Designer Parfums. Before Designer Parfums, it was Parfums International. That's my bottle. And then I think there was one before Parfums International, the original, which I don't have. But just an amazing value for money. If you ever find this like I did for 20 or 30 bucks, grab it. Grab it. It'll show you the depth and just the complexity of these vintage fragrances from back in the day. And again, you can just admire the bottle. It is just perfect. I mean, they don't make bottles like this anymore. They should, but they don't. Scherrer 2 from 1986. All right, next on the list we have Jean Patou, and this is kind of one of my like important day scents. So if I'm going to give a presentation, or if I'm going to go for Father's Day or something like that, this is one of the fragrances that I reach for. Patou Pour Homme. Now again, you can see the inspiration, and this is a grail fragrance now. So meaning this long discontinued, you're going to pay $1,000 for this bottle probably, although maybe you'll get lucky and find one half full and only pay 500 or something. But it's clary sage, Mysore sandalwood, pimento, Virginia cedar, Bourbon vetiver, and Malabar pepper. So this is the spray version. Most men in 1980, okay, this came out in 80, this came out in 81. Most men didn't spray, they splashed their fragrances on. And so the majority of the fragrance bottles for men came in splash. So this is actually the Privé version. from 1994, which has more lavender and hay and stuff like that in here, which is missing, you know, from the original. But I wanted to show you the bottle because this is sort of, remember I was telling you about all of his sort of fancy caps and how the Charles Jourdan, you have to pull it up. Well, this is one of my all-time favorites. So what he did here is he created this cap where you have to twist it once, it clicks, okay? So technically it's still closed, but that first click is just telling you you're opening it. Now you have to open it further to get to it, okay? So what that does when you're closing it is you put it on, it clicks, but it's not closed. You give it one more click. Now you know it's closed for good. Now you know it's actually properly sealed, you know? I love that about this. It's just a little different twist, but that's the bottle that he created. I think the bottle's the same for this one and this one, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe very similar. Maybe they're not the same exactly. I don't think they're the same. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I don't think they're the same. I think they're very close. Well, maybe it is the same. Yeah, maybe it is the same. Either way, it's very, very close to this. So you can get an idea of the spray and the splash version of just one of the all-time great masculine duos. Again, like if you are going to go give a big presentation or something, you cannot go wrong with Patou pour Homme. Okay, next on the list, and actually self-admitted, Serge Mansau, one of his favorite personal bottles. Now, this is not going to do it justice because the original had what looked like maybe some like green buds or algae or seaweed or like aquatic florals here where it almost looked like it could blend right in to, if it was sitting on like an ocean floor, it could blend right in with the flowers and stuff like that. And there was texture on the cap. This is one of the later ones. Still, I think it's still before Kenzo was purchased by LVMH. I'm not sure, but this is Kenzo pour Homme. Now this is discontinued according to Parfumo. Sadly, I think they did a parfum version, but the original Eau de Toilette is discontinued from my understanding. And it is supposed to be an aquatic, but I like my aquatics like this. I like them not just being an out-and-out aquatic. You know, I like there to be more things added. So here there's all these different green notes and fruity notes, and there's iris and peach and juniper and rose and cedar, moss, there's oak moss, sandalwood, musk, ambergris. So it's not just an aquatic, you know, and that's what I like about it. So it is, here, let me do a fresh spray. Kenzo pour Homme. And perfect for the warm weather, though, in Texas, which is not right now. But, yeah, you get this, like, ozonic. It's like being around the water, not in the water, if that makes sense. It's like, it's like, have you ever had those waters where it's like infused with different like cucumber and stuff like that? And when you drink the water, you kind of get that fruity infusion into the water. And then imagine sitting by the beach or sitting by the ocean. So you kind of maybe have someone next to you putting on sunscreen, and you're having maybe like a fruity cocktail of some sort. And but there's still some of that oak moss and sandalwood and cedar and stuff from the 1980s that's still in here. It hasn't just gone full aquatic yet. And that's what I like about Kenzo pour Homme. So I think the bottle is supposed to be like this bamboo shoot or something. You can see the curve in the bottle. Built-in sprayer. And again, none of the details are here on this one. But the vintage, if you look it up on Parfumo, you'll be able to see some of the details I was talking about on the original one. So, Kenzo pour Homme from 1991. Okay, next on the list, we have quite possibly my favorite Serge Mansau of all time. This bottle is stunning, and I don't even know what it's supposed to be. If anyone knows, let me know. But this is from the house of Leonard. He did a couple for the house. And this is called Balafre. Now, Balafre came out in 83, years before Poison came out by Dore. Poison borrowed a lot from Balafre as far as I'm concerned. And in fact, if I was going to wear one for myself, it would be Balafre. Poison I like smelling on a woman around me or something, but I don't personally like to wear poison. I'd wear it to bed, you know, but I don't like to wear it as my scent of the day. Balafre I could wear as my scent of the day. It's a big oriental floral. And again, we see the rope and string. He loved using these little, I don't know what you would call them, maybe like enhancers to his creations. Something so simple changes the whole setup, the whole structure. And Leonard advertised this as like sculpture, emotion, like sculpture de emotions. I'm guessing it's like emotions of sculptures or something. And so here's the thing about this bottle. This is like some granite rock or something to me, you know? It's got this, I mean, look at that. It is a pure piece of art to me. Look at that. And I don't know what, maybe this is like a hand in the sculpture. Maybe there's like a person in the sculpture. Or maybe this is the sculpture and the person is, you can maybe make out a hand or something, or I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. All I know is I love it. It reminds me of those volcanic rocks or granite rock. What are the rocks called? Where they have like, they sparkle, you know, on the inside. They've got that that sparkle on the inside, like gemstones, but it's like it's cut into. That's what this reminds me a little bit of. But I mean, this is just, to me, it's a pure work of art. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. And something you would never, ever, ever in a million years see today. Ever. Ever, ever. I would still like to know what their thought process was behind it, but I love it. So one of my all-time favorites, Balafre by Leonard. And then you've got Leonard pour Homme from 1980, so a couple years before Balafre. But again, this is, I don't have the cap because it's a tester, but the cap was a black cap that just went from here to here in equal measure. It sort of rounded it out, if you will. And so Leonard pour Homme is probably one of my favorite spicy, woody type creations. There's some leather in the dry down. There's frankincense, castoreum, cinnamon. There's a carrot note in here, an actual carrot note. Ron Winograd is the perfumer. He also did Furyo by Jacques Bogart, and he did Lagerfeld Classic, two of my all-time favorites. He also did a fragrance for Monsieur Leonard called Monsieur Leonard from 92, which I would love to smell one day. And he did Roomba. And so he's everything he touches has been amazing. He just didn't do very much for whatever reason. I don't know his personal situation, but this is the one I was mentioning. Also has, you know, Leonard was all about indenting the bottles with things. Look, so, you know, this is indented here. This is also indented, but this reminds me of almost like balancing stones, you know? Like there's a balance to Leonard pour Homme. Balancing stones. And you can see it right here. At least that's, I don't think it's supposed to be like abs or something. Maybe it's supposed to be abs, but I think it's supposed to be like balancing stones is what it appears to be to me. Either way, I love it. The brown sort of gives you an idea of the smell as well. There's lots of patchouli and woods and amber and very earthy type fragrance. Really, really love it. You do get that traditional lavender masculine aromatic top as well with lots of like thyme, marjoram, basil, petitgrain, stuff like that. Very spicy, and then it dries down leathery with the castoreum. I love the castoreum in Leonard pour Homme. If you can ever find these little 25 ml bottles, they're a great value for money. And you can see this is the one I've been using. So just a oh God, what a fragrance, man. Leonard pour Homme is so classy. A well-traveled man, well-spoken, well-traveled. Okay, next on the list, another one of my all-time favorite bottles. And it's a shame that Lubin went away from this structure. I'm sure I know why, because it's probably expensive to do, but this is Idole de Lubin, the original Eau de Toilette from 2005, which is discontinued. They re-released it as an Eau de Parfum a couple years later in a bottle that looks like this, and you can see all of the sort of detail is gone, you know? And you understand why. Obviously, it's much cheaper to make something like this than it is to make something like this. But Idole de Lubin, one of my favorite sort of red sandalwood fragrances. There's rum, bitter orange zest, black caraway, saffron, cottonwood, ebony, sugarcane, leather, and red sandalwood. Olivier Jacobetti's the perfumer. I have a backup bottle of this. I love it so much. But again, look at the detail. You know, something so small as these little beads here make a huge difference. I'm sure Serge Mansau came up with this idea of the beads like a necklace, you know? Here's the African mask face here, and then on the back you have the traditional shield. I just think it is absolutely stunning. Beautiful bottle, and really shows you, this is 2005, really shows you how cheap even some of the higher end niche houses have gotten. Look at the difference, you know? Much prefer this. So yeah, if you've never smelled the original Idole de Lubin, it is amazing. I'll review it one of these days. Okay, I'm going to cheat with the next one because it's on the list. I don't have the proper bottle, but I'm going to urge you to go check it out for yourself. So I have a sort of tester demonstration bottle here. This is from the house of Rochas, and it's called Alchimie. Now, Alchimie came out in 1998, and it's a floral oriental fragrance by Jacques Cavalier. And it's lilac, blackcurrant, hyacinth, peach, pear, plum, bergamot, cassia, grapefruit, mandarin orange, cucumber, heliotrope, jasmine, lily of the valley, wisteria, black locust, coconut, rose, sandalwood, amber, caramel, licorice, musk, tonka bean, and vanilla. This is a bitch to decant because it's broken clearly, but I got this for free from Areej, so I can't complain. But I've decanted some of it in a little sprayer, and it is an amazing floral oriental. Again, the bottle looks like a pumpkin. It has this orange pumpkin shape, but on top it almost looks like a genie in a lamp or something. You know, like there's like a gem on top that looks like can be held and pulled and popped the cap off of the bottle. It is a glorious bottle. One of his more iconic designs, I think, because of that little elongated gem on the very top. Check it out. Look it up. Alchimie by Rochas from 1998. Okay, now one of my all-time favorite bottles. It competes with Balafre, I think, and the closing mechanism of Patou pour Homme and Charles Jourdan un Homme. But this is a very, very special bottle by Rochas from 1993 called Eau de Rochas. And now if you take a look here, right, it almost looks like fingerprints right here, right? Your fingerprints fit perfectly into these little spaces right here. And then you can see the ripples, right? Here's your fingerprints. And you can see that, like, imagine you're touching water, okay? Brilliant. Touching water, and here come the ripples. See them? In the water. And Eau de Rochas pour Homme is a citrusy, fresh, leaning aquatic, but this is so good that it feels like Creed decided to try to clone the fragrance in a way. Not clone, but inspire. Let's say Creed was inspired by Eau de Rochas Homme because in 1994, they released a fragrance called Neroli Sauvage. I wore an entire bottle, 120 ml bottle of Neroli Sauvage back in the day. I used to wear it during the summer and just douse myself with it. And it shares huge similarities to a $20, $30 Eau de Rochas Homme. Now, this is discontinued, at least according to Parfumo. It says it was last marketed by Procter & Gamble Metropolitan Cosmetics, so it's discontinued, which is really sad because everything from the bottle design, and again, I mean, it just fits perfect that this, look at my fingerprints there. Fits perfect, and there's the ripples going through the bottle. Just an absolute genius bottle design. Absolutely genius, in my opinion. And really shows the sort of, you know, creativity of Serge Mansau. The creativity is just off the scale, you know? Off the scale. It can't be anything else. It fits too perfect. And the ripples in the water. Brilliant stuff. Now, I'm going to cheat on the next one as well, because while this is an actual bottle of Macassar by Rochas from 1980, it's the more modern version. This is also discontinued now, unfortunately. But if you want to see the original version of Macassar, go to Rich Mitch's channel, my brother Rich Mitch, search for Rochas Macassar, And look at his bottle. He has the vintage with the squat sort of cap, the fat cap, if you will. And it's squat. It's like pushed together, and it has this long Macassar wood cap looking thing, dark wood. And this is pine, tarragon, bergamot. You know, it shares little hints of Yatagan by Caron from a couple years before this. But the castoreum and the leather in the base, oh fuck, I need to wear this more. I did a comparison video because he sent me some from the OG, and you know what? Even in the newer bottle, this is still quite good. Still quite good. That earthy green, piney type, you know, feel with the leather. Oh, it's to die for, man. I just wish I had the original presentation to show you. I mean, this doesn't do it justice, but you can get an idea. There's the note listing and what they say about it. But yeah, if you want to see the original bottle, go to Parfumo, look at the pictures, or go to my brother Rich Mitch's channel. Okay, last one. We'll see if we can keep it about an hour. Last one is a Italian fragrance house called Valentino. And this is the one that has the missing little circle piece that goes around the top. And you can see the holes. So there's a hole and there's a hole. And it's supposed to have something that goes around the top, very similar to what he did with Givenchy Pi. You know, you can see the holes right here. And this right here. And so I don't have that in mine. It's missing. But my guess is that it was supposed to probably go up and go down just like in Givenchy Pi, because you're supposed to be able to take this off like this. So it would be in the way if it didn't move. And oh man, if you love Z14 by Halston, Vendetta Pour Homme by Valentino from 1991 is like a Halston Z14 modernized in a way. You know, they've added some things like bay rum and a couple other notes that change it a little bit, but it definitely has that Halston Z14 type feeling, but with the spicy, almost like clove and allspice maybe combination from the bay rum, that traditional aftershave bay rum combination, you know, with geranium and jasmine and vervain, neroli, labdanum, oak moss, and patchouli in the base. Edward Fleischier is the perfumer, who I really, really rate his work. And, you know, I just recently reviewed in 2025 one of his fragrances for Frederic Malle called Rose Tenere, or Thunder Rose, or used to be called Un Rose, which was just a rose. I would definitely have a bottle of that if money was no issue. But speaking of Edward Fleischier, he created a fragrance by Montana called Parfum de Peau from the 80s for women. And I believe that bottle was also a Serge Mansau. But you can see the shape of the bottle here. Just gorgeous stuff. Fantastic. Fantastic piece of work. And I love the fragrance too. Brilliant stuff. So that is my top 20 Serge Mansau fragrance video. We kept it under an hour. Do let me know what you think. If there's any Serge Mansau fragrances in your collection that I did not talk about, I would love to hear which ones your favorites are. Do let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know these long form sort of videos people absolutely love. So let me know what you think. As always, it's a pleasure doing these videos for you guys. I love you. Cheers. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.